Disclaimer: the views expressed on this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek are solely the opinions of the host and the guest. The content of the conversation is not reflective of the institutions or establishments mentioned therein. Take all these opinions with a pinch of salt and a dash of lime if needed. Namaskara, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, whenever you're watching or listening, and welcome to this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek. My guest this week is Riddhi Yadav. Riddhi and I have known each other for close to a year now and met each other at the University of Central Oklahoma through our work with the Indian Student Association. In this episode, we explore quite a few topics in terms of Riddhi sort of leaning into classical music and growing up and learning that, and her love for it and wanting to keep it alive, and her exploration into the field of law and wanting to become an international lawyer and working in Geneva, and sort of a lot of those things that sort of a prospective professional would think about in a lot of ways. So it's definitely a lot that you can relate to from just the way that we all approach life and look at the things that we want to do in the future. So, without further ado, I present to you Riddhi Yadav on this episode of Perspective Platoon with Prateek. Hey Riddhi, how's it going?
Hi, I'm doing great. What about you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Thank you so much for joining me once again. I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Of course,
Before
likewise.
we get started, if you could let everybody know who you are, what you do, what you like, what you don't like, future aspirations, everything and anything you're comfortable sharing.
Of course. Hi, everyone, whoever's watching the podcast. My name is Riddhi Yadav. I am an Indian, of course, but I guess I can add another feather to my name. I'm also an Indian American. I was 12 years old when I first came to America, and since eighth grade, I've been here, and it has been a blessing. And I do miss India, but I feel like the culture is very close to me. Um, because I kind of have that upbringing since in the household I speak Marathi. I'm a Maharashtrian, so I come from Pune, which is a city in Maharashtra state in India. And it's very culturally known for singers. Like a lot of really good singers come from there. It's a very cultural pop town. I love it. And one thing is, you can go to any other country, that Indian in you kind of always stays. Like you can be far seas and like you can probably take India away from you, but you can't take away that Indian from you. That's and I walk with India in my heart, and I feel like wherever we go, and I think you would agree with me, Prateek, on this. Wherever we go, we kind of represent our country, our home country. There, like whenever we go, people are not going to be like, "Oh, what state are you from?" They're going to be like, "Oh, what country are you from?" So you're like, "Well, originally from India, but I live in Oklahoma." So every time you do get asked about it, so you're going to carry it no matter what. And I kind of feel proud about it. But yeah, that's about me a little. And right now, I graduated college this May, and um, my parents really wanted me to immediately go into law school, but I told them no, I need a break because I would much rather take that break and like try to do the practice exams and get a really high score so that I can get a big scholarship to law school and much more opportunities. So I'm preparing for LSAT, and hopefully I'll get into law school soon. And that's my future aspirations. I want to be an international lawyer because I do speak six languages, and I feel like I could bring it to good use if I do international law. And I love Zurich and Geneva and Switzerland. That's like my dream place to live at. And international law kind of thrives there. It's like literally the hub. So I'd love to do that. And I'm very also passionate about immigration law because my parents, we all were immigrants when we came here. And I feel like there's so much legislative changes that America needs, that we could do, that really kind of helps this country a little bit because I feel like immigrant class is the backbone of America. This whole country is made of immigrants. Everyone came from Europe and different places, so I feel like it is built with immigrants, and I feel like there's so much to do in that area. And except for my professional side, I'm a singer at heart, and that's my first love, and possibly right now the only love I have so far. And I'm very passionate about it. I've been doing it for about 16 years now. I do Hindustani classical, and I still Skype my teacher back in India, and I kind of like practice it and stuff. And so far, it's been really good. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Before we get started, or
Yes.
before we sort of dig deeper into some stuff,
Hmm.
or maybe I guess this is a bit of a deep question, but what was it like moving for a 12-year-old, leaving what you've only known to now moving to a completely different place? What was that like initially in terms of be it emotion,
Right.
family, friends, everything that comes with it? What was that like?
I agree. Honestly, I have to give props to my parents for that because actually, when I was in seventh grade, it was over summer when my school was out in India. We came over here as a vacation. That's what I was told. But my dad later on explained when we went back to India after the vacation. Oh, sorry. When I was here for vacation, my mom kind of put me for a month in school, and in May month we have all the exams that go on. So during that time, I was just kind of there, and my mom realized that I don't really study when I get home. I would just watch Jessie and Dora the Explorers and some Discovery Channel. And my mom used to be like, "Don't you have homework? Like, if you were in India right now, you would have studied for 5 hours a day." I was like, well, I don't have it. And right now I have a 97 in algebra. So she was like, why are my kids not studying? And then my dad was like, maybe the school system over here is a lot easier than India. So my dad was like, okay, what do you think about America? What if we settle down here? I was like, you know what? I like it. Like I have new friends and I'm a very outgoing and very extrovert person. Like it's not very hard for me to like mix and mingle and people like I'm in a room in 10 minutes, I probably make one connection or maybe two, and I'm like just enjoying and having blast with them. So I really love the environment here and like the freedom that I don't have to wear a uniform because, when in India, I went to a CBSC school where we had uniforms. We had to like braid our hair. If my hair right now, it's this short, but I would have had to braid it when I was in India. So it was very strict. Your nails had to be chopped, and the only time you could actually wear a western or any sort of like colorful dress was on your birthday. So I would like wait for my birthday so that I can flaunt my beautiful dress. But now I don't have to worry about that being in a American middle school, high school, or college. And so it has been a blessing. And then it is a big cultural shock for me because you know I came in with an Indian accent, but like when it did transform into American, it sounded more like British. And they're like, "Are you from there? Are you from Britain?" I was like, "No, actually, it's like I was in a my school. We had Oxford English and like different kind of things, so it's much more different than what we find here. So that kind of fascinated a lot of people about how like they found out that I know like different languages. Like, hey, what does this mean in German? What does this mean in French? So it was very. I felt very like a star kid in the school. So I loved the special treatment a little bit, and came to love America. Slowly, I built my friendship. These friends I had in middle school were also in high school, and then I had like these cool nerdy friends that I fit perfectly in, and we would just had our basic hangout was like, hey, do you want to do math homework today and just do best at it? Like, let's compete for who would get hundreds on next Latin quiz. So like it was perfect, and I kind of missed those days. And then college hit, and college was a totally different world because I feel like when people watch the podcast, they would think that college in America would also be easier the way like middle school or high school are. But honestly, I will say college life is much more harder. Like it really hits you, and you're like, oh wow, what happened? It I can't speak about my experience as a Indian college kid because I never attended college in India, but I would say that college anywhere is very tough to graduate and stuff. I had to take intercessions and like literally study for like 5 to 6 hours a day just to get my assignments through and then do extra studies to get through the exam. But yeah, that has been the backstory behind how I got here. And I must say that initially it was very hard to keep up my talents going because when you move countries, you definitely lose a lot, but also you gain something else as well. My life in India was very culturally and artistically involved. I was a national player in speed skating and I represented my state of Maharashtra for it. I went to, during the time when I was coming here, actually, I was already a national player for a year. But I couldn't compete anymore because I live here. So then I had to just continue speed skating as a like recreational sport. But then I realized that something I need to hold on to my culture because I felt like my culture was going away. And the more my mom saw me hang out with my American friends, she was like, I need to get my daughter Indian friends because we don't, in Oklahoma, we don't have a lot of Indian youngsters out here. So she was kind of stressed about that too. But then I felt like my mom really encouraged me to continue doing my Indian classical music. And I Skyped my teacher every Saturday, Sunday, and we used to do that. And talking to family kept my language going. So I kind of found like ways to kind of connect back to the culture. And then we also celebrate all festivals. Like I know this Wednesday we have Diwali coming up, and we're going to be celebrating that. And then we also do Ganesh festival. So like there's always an India here, you know. So now it's been 8 years that I'm here, so it doesn't feel like it doesn't feel bad. But initially it was very hard. Like I would be like, right now I would have been playing badminton with my friends. Indian society is just different. It's like you just knock the door, your friends are there. It's like, hey, you want to go play badminton? It's like, yeah, let's go. Over here, it's like you have to make phone calls, you have to see if they're available, you have to see if the household is there. You got to have someone to babysit you to play that. As a kid. But in India, it's like everyone around you, you can just trust them and just like play. There's like people, like it's just a lot of things. But yeah, like I certainly like my life here, and it's just like keep growing with it. That was
Right,
pretty deep.
right. Oh no, no, no. You're good. You're good. You're good. I appreciate the fact that you went that deep because I think a lot of the times in sort of like the you sort of tend to lose this stuff that happens, like be it within you or around you, when like big changes like that tend to happen because you're very much focused on adjusting rather than like sort of bringing yourself as you were from a different place. I guess
That's
there's a difference in terms of how you could lead life when you move to a different place. And
Mhm,
I like also another thing that I found really interesting about what you said of like that transition from school to college, of the levels of like toughness, if you will, for the lack of a better word.
mhm,
It did seem to get quite hard in college, in comparison to school. Since you've studied in India already,
mhm.
or for a part of your life, I should say, would you say that the Indian education system is very much tougher on you as a child in comparison to the education system over here?
Yes, I would completely say that it is very tough because, I would like to highlight two things in the Indian society. One is, and I feel like every society as well, like one thing is that you have your personal hard work, how much you can put in. If I'm not good at something, I'm just going to keep practicing and I'm going to get better at it. And then afterwards, I'm just going to give my best. And that's something you have in your own hands. Your hard work is in your own hands, but then there's also another factor which I feel like American society does not really have it, but Indian society does. It is also like I have heard and I have cousins, and I would have been in that process if I was not gonna be here in America. If I was in India right now, I bet I would have struggled with this. In Indian colleges, you have to either be in the 90, like above 90 percentile, either have connections really strong or be like in 95th and above percentile to gain a seat in a medical college or engineering whatsoever. And I don't know if you know about this, but in India, like a year back or something, I mean, it honestly is a lot. There is just so many, there's like very few opportunities for engineers now. Like there is always companies in there, but they kind of like were not hiring a lot of engineers because there's just so many of them now. Um, so it's like, if you have so many people studying in one area, of course there's going to be shortage in the other, so it's going to be like unbalanced. The economy fails in that situation. And I literally saw like these WhatsApp kind of tweets and kind of like videos going on that said um, that this engineer, he was making more than a beginning engineering person. He kind of had a food stall and people just came and ate food, and he actually made like 35,000 rupees just by making food. And that was much more than what an Indian engineer made. I mean, I might be wrong in terms of numbers, but the point is that people are truly having these side businesses as their main focus. And he literally put his engineering degree on the wall and put a garland on it to be like, what, you're no use of me. So it's sad to see that. But then that's one thing, in India, it's much more tougher. And, I give props to all my cousins and everyone who is a student in college in India, because I do realize how tough it is. I think I'm extremely privileged that I'm here in an American system, because colleges are never going to run out of, seats or places. You would always, if you can't get into your favorite college, if not Harvard, I can at least get into Stanford or Yale or Pennsylvania or whatsoever. There's like so many options here. You would always end up going somewhere. There's always an option. If you don't want to go to college, you have VOTAC and like different kind of opportunities. Like you just never run out of, and you don't always have to have connections to get there. And maybe sometimes you just have to like sell yourself in terms of talking while you're having an interview. Just the fact that you're on time, the fact that you're speaking to them, the fact that you're interested in the project and expressing why you're interested and know the why question. That's all they need, and there's always those opportunities available. So you're never going to run out of the position. So uh, things in America, like, it's land of opportunity, and that's why we attract a lot of people from different countries. So I feel very blessed to be here. So that's one big difference, because I'm privileged to understand like how, when I was in Indian school, we would study for 6 7 hours, and I remember my dad would make these question paper of like math problems that lasted for 3 to 5 hours for a fifth grader. Okay, I was in fifth grade, and I still remember that my dad made like a 3 hour paper for me, and my hands used to get bruised. I'm not joking. It used to get bruised while writing and like just doing it. And I was like, what, I need a break. My dad's like, you have an exam tomorrow. Come on, you can do it. You can do it. I mean, I still made a good grade. Like, I mean, my dad's an engineer and I'm pretty good at math, but he was like, you can easily go into engineering. I was like, no, I'm not doing that. Sorry. I don't want to be I don't want to be recognized for my dad's, and I want to be recognized with my own identity. And either ways, I'm very passionate about debate, and that's something I actually did starting high school, and I was very passionate about it. That's why I was kind of like deciding to go in law, but then I was like, you know what, parents are not going to be happy listening to me going into law, because I also attended Francis Tuttle Bioscience and Medicine Academy in high school, and it was a medical kind of biomed academy, and I was doing really great. So my parents really thought that maybe she wants to go in medicine, so they hyped me up for it. But then I told them the first year I entered college, the first semester, I was like, I don't think it's gonna work for me. Like I am such it's not the grades. It's like I was turning into an introvert, and that's why I say that college is tough, because you have to make choices. The colleges are taking money from you. You never know. Like the bank is just racking up. And as I say, like I'm privileged that my parents paid for my college fees, but then it was still like it's like it's always going up, and you have to like make a decision about it. And so the first semester I went there, I was like, you know what, I want to do, I want to go into law. So that was a better option for me, and I'm glad I made that decision immediately. At first, they were not really okay with it, but then they realized, like, yeah, she's sticking with that. So it worked in my favor. But yeah, like it has been a good experience, as I say. It has been like ups and downs and stuff. You're like, well, all you have to do is just kind of go for it, because you can't just run away from the problems. You have to like face it. And I'm gonna say, like, I'm not like a perfect A student. Yeah, I had like few B's and stuff, but then it was a good experience. And like my internship experiences, internships are something I don't think Indian system really stresses on a lot, which I feel like in America we also give work experience and what you have done outside of just studying. We holistically the applications are seen by graduate programs and such, which is pretty great. And I like the fact that they just don't look at a student who has all A's. They also look at like, okay, what did you do in your spare time? Did you have a part-time job? Tell me about your job, you know? So it's pretty cool. I like it. I like the change.
For sure. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, but for starters, what I will say, for some of you who might not be aware, who's listening and watching, um, in terms of going to college in India, not to say that you can't get into a college,
Mhm,
but if you want to get into like the best colleges, you have to sort of take these entrance exams. There's like a common entrance exam. There's a separate exam that students tend to take for medical, which is called NEET. It used to be called AIMPT before. So there's a lot of those sort of things that um, one might think tend to weed out the, for the lack of a better word, not so great kids in terms of education, or not education, but they're in terms of their level of knowledge, if you will, from coming out of school. um, but at the same time, it's very easy to sort of weed out the ones that actually critically think or bring in these other facets of um, knowledge and experience that a person would need when they go and start their career. So that's, I guess, one of the drawbacks of the sort of system setup.
mhm,
But I do feel that people are opening up a little more to the sort of opportunities that are available outside, and
mhm,
not just focused on engineering and medicine. Because another interesting thing that you mentioned, which I think is sort of known at the moment, at least in India, is that
mhm.
there's a saturation of engineers to an
Yes.
extent where, like you said, engineers are having to like put up food stalls or like do something else
Mhm.
to survive, because
Yes.
that's the amount of engineers we had. And I think some of that is also probably just a result of like that generational sort
Mhm.
of passing down of information, to where, oh, engineers tend to make a lot of money. And
Yeah.
I understand, I get where they're coming from, like our parents especially, because
Mhm.
they've seen the world run, or the world work best for people who've made the most money. And at that point in time, the people who've made the most money, unfortunately, or for, I guess that's not the right word to use there, but
Right.
engineers made a lot of money,
Yeah.
and they wanted the best for their children at the end of the day. That's something that I understand every parent wants,
Right.
when you look at it from the perspective of Indian culture. So a lot of the times is that, I guess, pressure is not as much of a problem now than it used to be before, but it's still there, to where,
Yes.
oh, become an engineer, you'll make some money, you can then do an MBA and then maybe go abroad and do this and do that, so a lot
I,
of those things sort of cook up to where people try to become engineers. But yeah, go ahead. You wanted
right.
to add
Sorry.
something to
Yeah.
that?
Actually, I do. The funny part is that I understand. Like, I totally agree with you on that point. That yes, like it's like uh, Indian parents have had like a lot of different kind of ideas and kind of dreams for the kids. Like I know that when my dad got his like college done and stuff, that time computer engineering was a new field. Like they didn't have a lot of engineers. So my dad he got a master's in I think yeah computer science. He got a master's in computer science, and that time he was actually married to my mom. He married at 25, and my mom was like, you know what, you go ahead and do finish your degree. So when I was born, he was actually doing his master's, and he finished it quick, and he became a computer engineer, and immediately he got a like it opened up a new spectrum of jobs for him, and who really wanted him. So he, of course, there you bargain, and you're like, okay, you know what, you want me, okay, that's like you have so many positions open for you. So the thing is that that time it was not really like a bustling field. Like they wanted computer science engineers. There was a scarcity of it, so they just kind of like went in, and that's why my dad was able to like rise up in kind of like the positions and stuff, which is pretty good. But then now the situations have turned. Like just in 20 years, it has been such an oversaturation of things, which is really sad to hear because I feel like engineers are also a pretty big backbone of our society. And going off to your point, in India, it's also like what, it's an easy way to like go out of country, get the experience, get a better paying job, and like help the family. Even in India now, like they do stress that, oh, I want to make my son an engineer because it's easier, it's time consuming. After college, you just have to do, if you want, you can do MBA and then work part time. There's just so many options. And the same thing with doctors too. Like doctors in India earn a lot too. But then I just don't like the fact that any other career after that, like a school teacher or something, is not as well respected, while they're the ones who actually make engineers and doctors and everyone. Like if someone says, I'm gonna start being a professor, everyone's gonna be like, well, what about your finances? Like, it's gonna hurt you a lot, those kind of things. There's a stereotype in that. But surprisingly in America too, like my parents also are that X generation from India, right? So they thought the same for me when I was a kid. They would like tell my family members like, of course we're gonna make her an engineer. When I came here, they kind of realized, they were like, oh, so you want to go into medicine? I was like, at first I was like, well, I'm not sure yet, but yeah, you can take that, yes. And then when I actually decided, I was like, no, dad, I'm gonna be a lawyer. So my dad was like, are you crazy? Like, no one in our family is a lawyer. We don't even know what's going on. You have to get clients. How are you gonna get your clients? And that stressed me out. And then I kind of researched more. I took more interest in the career path that I want to go in, and I was like, no, I'll be fine. And the funny part is, in an American society, lawyers are like looked up as engineers, like kind of a thing. In like the way with India, like it's one of the most legal career is one of the most respected here in America. And then after that, it comes doctors and engineers and so on. So like over here, it's like engineering, like law, or like be a doctor kind of a thing. But then still, like there's still a stereotype of these kind of jobs. Like my mom, I still remember her talking about this. Like she kind of reminds this like every other week or something. She used to be like, if you would have been an engineer by now, we would have you would have done MBA in 2 years, and I would have your dad would have hooked you up with a proper job, a well-paying job, because like he has a lot of experience in this. He has made like 14 engineers in his own family. Like in our family, he guided 14 engineers, which are his cousins and my cousins and stuff. So that's why my mom was like, you know what, your dad is like, he would have guided you. You would have been an engineer by now. I would have gotten married and off the hook and stuff. I don't know why, but like I think when you hit the 22, your mom's like stressing about your marriage and things like that. I'm like, oh god, like I want to travel the whole world, and you're here thinking about my marriage. Like it's crazy. But it's just parents getting worried about you. So, but I convinced my mom that, you know what, I'm gonna do this. Don't worry about my marriage or anything. Just let me be. And she's understanding it now. But that topic still comes out, and it's kind of really funny to tackle. But yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Because another interesting thing that you mentioned was that lawyers are quite well regarded over here, and I think a lot of that also has to do with the way that society is structured here. Because society is slightly structured a little differently back home, whereas it is structured differently over here, and it's like I guess that's the way it is everywhere. Like things are structured differently, that support different. Well, they support everything, I would say, now in like the newer age, if you will. But back in the day, maybe they made some things a little more suitable than others. Because also, like to sort of bounce off of what you said, it's now at least you have people taking different approaches to making more money, or to sort of finding a way to make money from their passions, be it through becoming a dance choreographer or whatever it may be. Like people find a way to generate income out of the things that they love to do, and I think society today has sort of facilitated that in many ways, which is great, because that way hopefully um, you have less unhappy people, or people who are unhappy with their jobs and
True.
so on. But I guess that's a topic for a different discussion, because I think um,
It's a whole
it's
big,
very like
yeah.
exactly, yeah, it's a it's a can of worms in its own way, for sure. But to sort of bounce off of another thing that you said,
Mhm.
your parents initially wanted you to become an engineer, and then they were open
Mhm.
to you becoming like going into the medical field, but then you had
Mhm.
to sort of open them up to the idea that, look, I want to pursue a career in this, which was law. Did you at every point feel, and this is like in no way sort of saying that your parents didn't support you, but did
Yeah.
you at any point feel like, the family might not be happy with what you're doing?
Yes.
And to sort of bounce off of that again, do you think that eventually at the end of the day, they would have come around in this hypothetical situation, of course?
Yeah.
Um, they would come around because they're seeing you living a life that's making you happy.
Yeah. Actually, yes, there was a whole 3 to 4 month period where I was still at OU and I was studying, and the COVID happened. So I moved back home, and seeing me really, and that time I had moved my whole career path from like, I was still a psychology kind of focused major, but then I moved to UCO and I pursued that, and then I went forward, and my dad really realized that he was like, you know what, she is doing good. Like, I mean, he saw me because I used to judge national debate rounds and like state rounds. So, I mean, he was like, maybe she is really passionate about this. Maybe she is very serious about it. He saw me like going that way, and then like also my grades kind of spoke for them. He had never had issue with that. Then he realized that maybe, you know what, maybe that is the right choice. So he reminded me. He was like, you know what, whatever you do, we would support you, but just remember, like, whatever choice you make, it's those something that you actually want to do. And I must give props to my parents. The thing is that I know there's a lot of Indian parents actually who kind of sadly like kind of force their kids to go in a certain career path which they're not really passionate about, so they're like pretty much groomed since childhood. I'm not saying I was groomed, I was not really, but like if someone asked my dad like, hey, what is your daughter going to do, he would naturally give like engineering, kind of thing as a kid. And then when I came here, like he was proudly saying I'm gonna be a doctor to like everyone in the Indian society. And then when I said no, actually I want to be a lawyer, so like now he's open to like getting that in. But another thing is that I was also struggling with like one kind of gray area being an Indian American is that um, your parents might not always agree with you. So my mom always told me that, you know what, since you're gonna be your own thing, why don't you get your own job? And I was like, actually, you know what, that might give me a peace of mind, and maybe like I can help with some of my college finances and stuff. I don't want my dad to be paying. So I became a behavior therapist. So I work with kids who have any sort of behavior problems. It's not like they're crazy or like they have aggression or things. No, um, I'm basically working with getting my students to kind of um, work with their problems. Like I have a student who is not really great with. He does not like to color out of that picture. If that goes, he totally melts down. He shuts down completely. He can't do anything else. He can't even pick up his pen. So I kind of help him through that. It's like the way how occupational therapists do their job. It's like that, but in terms of managing their problems, talking it through, it is like a therapy kind of session. So I got trained for that. It was an intensive kind of training, and I got licensed for that. And I started working as a behavioral therapist, and since about a year and a half now, and I got my first job. Had a really decent salary of like $20, which is not too crazy, but it was enough for me to pay my college bills. And I just, my dad was like, "Oh, you're making a good amount of money. Good. Okay, well, like, why don't, like, he was kind of like, you could pay your own college bills." I was like, I have no problem with it. And I kind of, he didn't really say that. I went to him and I was like, I want to pay my own college bills. I don't want to make you pay it, because I kind of like, when it comes to career point, I'm not saying I'm selfish, but I want to kind of earn it on my own terms, because I don't want anyone else to like kind of take credit for that. I mean, yeah, I would happily give the credit to my parents for like getting me here and stuff, but like I want to earn it by myself, so that I have something to hold on to. Like, yes, I kind of did it. Like parents always support you, yes. Like I have seen so many of my cousins whose parents pay for their college tuition, but I feel like when I started working, and my days used to be very busy. Like Once I got out of my classes at UCU, I would go directly into work, and then I come home and I studied. My days were busy. I didn't even have time to hang out with my friends or anything, but I still made time to like call them. Plus, it was COVID, so But it gave my life a routine, and it made me feel more responsible. And I kind of felt good about proving it to my mother. My mom is a total. She is very, very strict. So I kind of like the fact that how I took it as a challenge, and I kind of proved her wrong, and she liked the change in me. She was like, you know what, I like how you're paying for yourself and stuff, and it was very happy for me that I could proudly tell my friends like, here, guess what, I'm paying my own college bills. I feel great, you guys. It's like it's the best thing ever. And even now, I paid the last 2 years of my college, and so I felt really, I felt like I achieved my degree in the right terms. So, the sense of being an independent at this young age, I mean, I don't necessarily think, I feel like once everyone crosses their 20s, I feel like you need to start being an adult. But in the true sense of being an adult, I feel like I'm completely kind of like, at most, a little bit independent than I see my normal friends and colleagues being, because I have friends whose parents pay for them, and there's nothing wrong with it. My parents offered me to pay for like my college tuition, but I chose not to because I have the money. What am I going to do with it? Plus, it gave me a direction, and I kind of get that pleasure of earning your own degree. So yeah, um, I don't know what was the question, but I I think I just went in.
No, you're good. You're good. You're good. It's totally fine. It's totally fine. It was about like happiness and like sort of your parents understanding that you'd be happy with what you were doing. But you
Yeah,
sort of answered that initially, so that's totally fine.
right.
Um, what I was gonna hit on, like sort of expand on a little further,
Hmm.
was something you said towards the end about being independent in the way that you were able to make money for yourself to go to college and
Right.
pay for it, in the sort of sense of achievement and pride that it gave you, was something that like helped you or sort of motivated you in many ways. Now, because we're Indian, like of Indian heritage, I feel like there is a different dynamic in terms of how American college students end up pursuing their lives versus how an Indian college student would pursue their lives.
Yeah.
Because, say, for example, in India, and again, in no way, before I start expanding on this, in no way is this sort of a way to, like, what's the word I'm looking
Show a
for?
culture
I'm not trying
down.
to
Be
belittle.
mean.
Yeah, I'm
Be
not
mean.
trying to
Yeah.
belittle any of the sort of
Yeah.
ways of life.
Yeah.
It is just sort of a conversation point in the sense
Hmm.
that in India, a lot of people our age are probably still going to college, living with their parents, and
Yes.
they're getting that family support that
Hmm.
I personally believe that we still need at this age. Because I think we're still sort of impressionable as 20 years old or 20-year
Yeah.
olds, or like in that range of early 20s versus late 20s. So, whereas over here, it's the complete opposite. At the
Right.
age of 18, kids are out of their house.
Yes.
They're
Hmm.
living on their own, living in dorms, making money for themselves,
Yes.
or, paying for their college fees and all that sort of stuff. So you get to see both extremes, having
Hmm.
lived in both parts of the world.
Hmm.
But I just want to get your opinion on this.
Yeah.
You briefly sort of touched on it, but we can
Hmm.
maybe
Yeah.
expand on it a little more
Right.
words. What I was
Yeah.
gonna say
No.
was, it's
Mhm.
sort of like a combination of the two that I feel like works best. Because if you're in one
Yes.
extreme, let's say the Indian extreme, you probably don't necessarily learn a
A
sense of
lot.
independence and like
Yeah.
self-dependence quickly. Whereas
Hmm.
over here, it's sort of like you're left in the dark and you have nobody to help you out.
Yes.
So I feel like there's that balance, or well, maybe not an exact balance, but like a combination that's needed. So what is your thought on that?
Honestly, actually, that's a great question, Prateek. I feel like, for example, in India, right? Everything I feel like it's tied back to the economy, how the country is really doing. Because in Indian economy, it's so hard. Like you have to, and I completely agree with you. If I was in India right now, I wouldn't have a job. I wouldn't be paying my fees. My dad wouldn't be paying it. And it is just how expensive it is. Like I remember over here in America, our middle schools and high schools are free, so your parents will get like the time to like kind of like get the finances together. And then college is where like the big, uh, you know, piggy bank just kind of like gets gets the money out. But it's like, yes, it's a complete different. It's like over here in America we have affordable tuition fees. Okay, if you can't go to Harvard and have like 70K a year to like pay, if you're not a millionaire, you can't pay that. You have other options. You have affordable tuition. You have public schools. There's scholarships available for people who do great on their what is it, SAT and ACTs and stuff. So there is always, even though you're a rich kid or you're poor, but you, if you make that time to have a good score on SAT and ACT, you will get the scholarship. I had about $8,000 of scholarship because of my scores, and that had been a blessing because then my dad didn't have to pay international tuition fees being at OU. Because when I was at OU, I was technically considered in state, but I was also considered international. In state only because I graduated from a American Oklahoman high school, so I was eligible for in-state tuition, which UC or any other colleges did not have that kind of privilege. I had to file a petition for that to OU, and I got it. So I was lucky, and the scholarship always came in handy, which was great. But I do call myself a little bit lucky. So I completely agree with you. There's like two different situations in this, but also there's another kind of like funny part to it. It's like, yes, there are parents who are always there to help you, but it's like it's so easy to get a loan over here in America. It's so much easier. I literally see my friends in India now applying to getting MBAs in America, and they're taking the big leap. They're like, you know what? I know that I have to take a loan of like, let's say 30 lakhs or maybe 1 crore, who knows, for 4 years. But I literally had a friend who came a month back and he visited me and my like family, and we're having a dinner and we talked about it. I was like, you know what? You're 20 years old and you're here all by yourself. You've not been to India for 3 years now. How do you manage it? He was like, you know what? I took a loan after 12th grade. I took a year gap and I did the SAT for entrance exam and TOEFL, TOEFL, whatever that is called, the entrance exam. He came over here and he has a twin brother, and they both came over here and they got a loan for themselves, and he knows the reality that once he gets a job here after doing college, he can pay that loan off in maybe 1 or 2 years max, or maybe even four. But it's manageable. In India, you would literally, it would be expensive because even after you did so much hard work in college and you get a job, it might not be enough to pay you really good money. Like, it will take you years to like kind of pay the debt off. But here there are options. And over here too, like I have like a lot of people who pay their debt off for like years. But if you plan it well, it's always possible. Which I feel like it's like it's great to have it. So things over here are like, it's not like a dream world. It's not like unreachable. You can always reach it. I'm not saying India is any less, but the situation in India is a little different. There's a lot of competition. There's just a lot of waiting to. Um, the resources not might not be enough for students. So yeah, like I hope that answers your question there.
No, it does. It does. It definitely does. And what I wanted to add was that
Hmm.
I do feel like there is something about still sort of having that contact or being able to have that contact with family and closed ones, or excuse me,
Hmm.
closed ones rather, when
Yeah.
you're sort of, studying in India.
Hmm.
Because I do think that you need that a lot.
Yeah.
Not to say that, you know, I've been a loner. I've over here, I've had a lot of friends. I've met a lot of people too, but you do have those moments where you're like, you feel alone even though you're not alone. I
Yes.
sort of
Yeah.
mentioned this randomly in a newsletter that I wrote. Um, but yeah, for those of you who don't know about that, sort of a side plug. I do write newsletters and releases every week, so I'll link those in the description if you want to check that out. But anyway, it is sort of that dynamic which, of course, you can't always sort of make everything work. That's just unfortunately not how life is. But then at the same time, you sort of learn lessons out of it. It sort of teaches you a lot of things in terms of being able to live alone, or sort of adapting if you're living with the
Yes.
people, or living with people, excuse me. Um, so there's definitely a lot of dynamics that go into play, in terms of you sort of taking that next step. Speaking
Right.
of which, you're sort of taking an off year right now to sort of work on um, the entrance exams to be able to go
Yeah.
to law school.
Hmm.
Um, was there, well, okay, I guess maybe you could answer either way.
Yeah.
Uh, was it like a singular moment that made you go, "Oh, that's what I want to do," or was it like a build up of a few things that made you sort of feel, "Okay, I actually think that I have more of a career in law than I do in medicine or in engineering." So what
Yes,
was that like? Was it just like a breaking point, or not a breaking point, but like an inflection point, or was it like a
there
build up of
was
stuff?
there was a quick one actually. There was this one instant that it really happened. When I was still in my medical program, and they were hosting um, state debates, like yeah, so like whoever qualified for state, they would go to nationals. So I got a call from my coach from high school. He was like, "Hey, Riddhi, like I know it's been a while, but I wanted to reach out to you. We need judges to judge the state debate round. Would you be available? It's actually on the weekends, and I hope that you could make some time for it." And I answered his call, and I was like, "You know what? I'm so excited. I'm glad you called because I was trying to see if I could have something because at that point, I was in my first year, my second semester, and then having your chemistry and biology class and biochemistry and stuff, it made me very much an introvert. I couldn't go hang out with my friends because I have a lab report due. And honestly, if there's anyone in medical field right now or like pre med, I would say, at least for me, it is hard to do 5 credit chemistry class with a lab and a biology class with a lab in the same kind of week, So like it was a little bit tough on me, but I still managed to get A's and stuff, which is great. But I felt very much an introvert, and I was trying to find of better ways to kind of keep myself engaged and be more social too, because I wanted to keep my sanity. I can't just be in my room and just my own thoughts to myself, you know. And so I kind of, this debate round just kind of came as a like a blessing. Over the weekend, I was there judging debate rounds, and I met a couple of my we have family friends over here, I know, and their kids probably like right now one just about started college. He's about my sister's age, like 4 years younger than me. So he recognized me. He was like, "Hey, how are you? Like, are you here to judge rounds?" I was like, "Yeah, yeah, it's pretty cool. It's good to see you." And he made me like, he was kind of asking me about like some tips to like for debate and stuff, and that made me think that this was the hidden key that I was really missing, like debate right here. Like when I was in high school, I would go for debate rounds that lasted till 1 a.m. I would do district and state, and then I went to nationals twice. And I was so passionate about it. When I entered college, it just happened that I forgot about it. That day, those 3 days that I was judging debate rounds, like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it made me realize how much I missed it. That was my break point when I was like, you know what? Law is the career I want because there's moot court in it. I understand, a lot of those kind of things, and it's nothing against illegal. Like I feel like if I wouldn't have had that click, or if that opportunity had not presented itself to me, right now I would possibly be doing MCAT or possibly be in medical school right now. But I'm glad that happened. That one thing that changes your life. And I like when I'm really passionate about something, I like to like go for it. I'm like a go getter. Like I'm a Sagittarius, so like it's like when you like look for something and you're like I really want to do it, so I will do it. But at that time, I'm glad I was not deeply in love. I was just kind of testing the waters, and that's what I really think is
Mm,
very important to do in college. At least for the first year, you have to like see what careers would work for you, and that was the best thing for me. And I feel like I'm glad I made the decision in my first year than way later because I did have a friend who was actually doing plant biology, and I was like, he's like, I knew him from high school. He was my senior. I was the freshman. I was like, when are you graduating? He was like, well, I don't know when. I was like, how, like how is that working? He was like, Reddy, I did biology, and then in my junior year, I realized that this is not. He went into depression. He realized that's not the thing for him. He decided he really wanted to do plant biology. So he later on turned that in, and then he had to like do 1.5 years more extra. So he was like, at least That time I had changed my total route into doing, pre law. So he was like, you know what? I'm glad you made the decision now because at least you're saving a lot of your parents' money on it. And I was like, oh no, that's great. But On a side note, I would also like to mention that, the one thing I really like is, and I mean, I don't know if a lot of people get this experience, but like when your parents are actually like, at least in my case, I can speak for myself. When my dad was paying the fees, he would look at my grades. He would look at my emails and be like, "Is there any important grade emails and stuff?" Like, I don't know why he took access to my email. Like, he had the app on his phone. So he was like, "Hey, look, your grade is at an 88 today. Like, is it gonna go up or what's up?" I was like, "Did you not turn in this assignment? It looks like a zero right now." I was like, "Dad, the teacher has not posted the grade. Just chill. Everything is fine." So, it's like a lot of micromanagement on my dad's part. I mean, I don't know if a lot of Indian parents do this, but that that was in my household, and I was like, "Dad, just take a chill pill." And I was kind of like really bothered by that. That every time I take a test, and I was like, "I hope I make an A, because if I make a C or a low B, of course that's not going to be happy. It's going to drop my grade down." So that stress kind of built up. But I tell you what, when COVID started and I came to UCO, or like when I was even at OU that last semester, when I started paying my own fees, I don't know what my dad thought, but like he would he would ask me like, "How is it going?" and stuff. But like he won't be micromanaging me, because he knew that if I'm paying for college, I'm taking my own responsibility, and I'm gonna give my best and I'm gonna try my best. So he didn't really ask me a lot of questions regarding my academics. He was like, you know what's best for you. Or maybe I was on a trial period the first 2 years, and he was like, you know what, now you know what you're doing, so go for it. But that kind of helped me a lot, because then I felt a little bit of freedom, which I completely enjoyed. So when you are paying for your own thing, it's like the pressure is on you, and like that you have to do or die right there. But I really definitely did enjoy that. On a side note, so yeah, that's a privilege.
Definitely. No, no, you're good. Um, it's that topic of responsibility is very sort of, not to say that people don't talk about it, but I think it's something that Indian parents sort of indirectly
Pass
make
on
you
or
think
like,
about. It's sort of like that you think about a lot, in terms of, oh, okay, like if I do this, like, what's gonna happen? Like, am I gonna be in trouble? Or it's again, it's another sort of can of worms in terms of like Indian culture and the concept
yeah,
of responsibility. But to sort of keep the conversation rolling in terms of like law and you sort of the choice that you've made. Before
hmm
you sort of go into that, though, maybe this is a bit of a side note, but
hmm
I my personal belief, well, at least, okay, well, before I sort of expand on that,
hmm
I do believe that there's a difference between having a debate versus having a discussion. Um, in the sort of social media space, if you will,
hmm
I think debates have sort of gotten this negative. At least this, again, this is just my
yeah,
opinion,
yeah,
but I
yeah,
do
of
feel
course,
like debates have a bit of a negative addition to them because of
yeah,
the way that they seem quite competitive about the side that they're
yes,
arguing about. Whereas a discussion for more or less is more like a open space to where you can talk about different things, and even if you don't meet a happy medium, you've sort of shared the different perspectives that you have to share.
that's right,
So what is your sort of thought on that in terms of the way debate is sort of viewed,
yeah,
or according to you, first question, is
yeah,
debate viewed uh, negatively today? If yes, why do you think that is? And second of all, what's your sort of thought in terms of debate versus discussion?
right. Yes, I completely do agree with you that debate is perceived to be one of like argumentative sides. Like whenever we say, "Oh, I do debate," they're like, "Oh, so you argue, and then you're gonna make everyone like believe you, and you're gonna try until the end." And to be honest, it's really not. It is um, giving your opinion, but with evidences. So a lot of it's like people preach, but do they really know a lot about that field? Like as a debater and a continuing one, I know that when we went to debate rounds, we have pros and cons. We prepare for both cases. we prepare for the questions that might strike us and like our opponent. We have to like think, and I think that's one quality in me that I have really gained it through debate is think about what your opponent might ask you in that situation and stuff, which has also helped me in real life because then if I say something, I have to also be careful like would my whatever I say would that hurt other person? Like if I was in his shoes, how would he feel? So try not to like hurt people's feelings because in this world, especially when there is a mixture of culture and a lot of polyglot around you, you have to be careful of what you say. Some cultures might not accept some things you say. So you have to understand from their perspective how would they feel if you were in their situation. How would you feel if you were in their situation? So that kind of forced me to kind of like learn that skill. And going back to the debate, it's like you have to have both sides ready. You have to have the questions ready. Kind of guess what might your opponent strike you back on that, and have an answer ready for that. And in debate, surprisingly, it's not about win or lose. It's more about who presented the point more clear. Like if you see some indie movies or or any sort of like a debate round or like you would see that or like a court, in court system, it's not always that someone who is actually guilty will be proven guilty. It's the lawyer's job to present the best argument he can, whichever is convincible to the jury and the court. And yes, like evidences do matter, but then it's the lawyer's job to try to find that leeways and see. I mean, it's pretty sad, but like um, it's always possible to like lose a kind of you know uh, lose a case just because you were not well prepared or your case was not very approachable or it was not very well perceived by the court. So it's the same thing with debate. It's like you present the best argument, you present it very effectively, that the judges, you give them the points that they really need, and so that the judges, whoever is judging around, gets to be like, you know what, that was right. Like, yes, this argument, like, there's been many times I feel like personally I do really good in negative cases. Like there is an affirmative and there's a negative case in debate. I do great in the negative cases because I feel like I'm very much well prepared to defend. As a negative, like case reader, I have to attack, but at the same time, I have to always keep defending the pro side too. So, how many points am I able to convince my judges to? Or like, how many points am I supposed to get out? Like, if I make 10, 11 like counter arguments, how many points am I like giving it to them within the time frame that earns me points, and that's how I win it. So it's very like mathematically calculated. But if my opponent does not really have a lot of points to attack me, or if I give answers to all his points and there's nothing else to kind of go against, then in that sense I have counterattacked him on all his questions he had towards me, and I will win the case. So it's not always about we're arguing. It's more about being technically accurate, like answering all the questions, not giving your opinions, but giving your point with evidences. That's what makes difference. So it's very calculated and very, I would say it's pretty much like reading a script, but also using, but also being realizing when to say something at the right time. If my opponent is saying attacking me on one point, but I answer him or I ignore his counter attack, of course that's going to make me lose points because he at the end he's going to use that against me and be like, you know what, my opponent never answered this question of mine, so it looks like clearly I urge the judges to vote for affirmative, you know, for the pro side or whatsoever. So it's like it's just about how and where and what you do and how you present a case with confidence, and it really helps you with public speaking and to have really strong opinions. And the basic thing is when you're really focusing and you're getting information to build a case, you are building up your skill to finding the true, like not trying to get through the fake news, but take that filter away and know both the sides, like what's going on here. So it does better in doing research. It's also, I feel like that debate has really helped me to go through college a lot because I knew how to like surf and how to get things right. Public speaking gets good, confidence right there. It has helped a lot. So I and my mom, honestly, she thinks I argue and debate. I really don't. She always thinks that whenever we have a conversation, she'll be like, "Are you arguing with me? I should have never sent you to debate. I should have never like let you go on those debate rounds because you keep arguing." I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" She's like, "Not again, mom. Like it's cool." So there's like a lot of different perspectives. But I feel like once you're in there and you actually do it, like I feel like a lot of other people, like my high school friends and like a lot of my family friends who are also Indian, they think that I do a great job, and they're like, you know what, you do debate, you're great, wow, okay, you're pretty smart, but then flip switch, you're home and my mom's like, no, don't do it, no. So it's like it's very respected in some cultures, and some it's like I don't like it. I'm scared of it because maybe they can't really present it, or they think that we're going to be adamant about it, but it's really not. You have to do it to know it, basically.
Totally, totally. I get where you're coming from because even in like some of my forensic science classes, I remember some of our professors saying that when if you were to go and present a case, or not present a case, excuse me, but if you were to ask to expand on some evidence material, you have to distance your own personal beliefs and feelings
Yes.
from your findings and sort of present that, and then leave the judgment, for the lack of better word, to
Hmm.
those who have to decide. Your job is to sort of put the argument
Convey
out
the
there
point. Yes,
to the best of your ability and sort of separate yourself and your beliefs from the argument that you put out. Because
I agree.
at the end of the day, you're not here to sort of contest whose belief is best, but you're
Hmm.
just sort of making an argument for a
My
certain case,
case.
whatever
Yeah.
that may be.
And I completely
Right,
agree with you.
right.
It's not the person, it's actually the case who's technically winning it. Because
Hmm.
all we're doing is we're just conveying the point that the case and the agenda is trying to set for it. So it's never a win or lose for the person, it's win or lose for how strongly you presented it. So it's always the case.
Right. Speaking of which, I do feel like a lot of the days, or excuse me, nowadays, a lot of the times, I'm getting my words jumbled up for some reason. Anyway, nowadays, a lot of the times, in like at least the public space, debates have become a lot about that added sort of touch of feelings and people getting offended and all that sort of stuff.
Yes. Hmm.
Now, sure, I mean, I don't know about every debate that's happening in the public space and the reasoning for people being
Hmm.
offended, because there's different nuances associated with those too. But in your personal opinion, if you're willing to sort of go into a bit of a rabbit hole for a few minutes before we sort of
Yeah.
expand on your future aspirations,
Hmm.
what do you think is a badly fought debate in the public space today?
Badly fought, huh? Hmm. That's a very tricky question, honestly. I feel like okay, I'm not trying to go farther, but I try to keep myself away from a lot of social media. If you see with my Instagram and stuff, it's pretty much dead. Like I'm there and I'll see my friends post, I'll like it, I'll send them messages, but I wouldn't get too much into it. But I do see a lot of hype about talking about India because we're Indian, so focusing on that, I feel like a lot of the public eyes are on politics. Oh, you don't agree with my standpoint, so I guess that's going to be tough for us. Like honestly, like which government did better? Like was Trump good, or like is how is Biden doing it? Oh, he sounds like a puppet in terms of. I feel like um, Kamala Harris is the one pulling the strings and stuff. So there's like a lot of this political thoughts, and I would say there's a lot of fake news going on too. And I feel like you should never. You can give your opinion, and you should be respectful of it, and get to know the opinion of others. Like honestly, to be speaking, like especially in India now, like that's America, but even in India, like there's been a whole hype about Aryan Khan, Shah Rukh Khan's son, getting like being in jail and stuff, and the poor boy, he's probably like about our age, like 21, 22, and like there's a whole cover up that's coming up, and looks like there is a rivalry between Shah Rukh Khan and the BJP party, and like things are happening where like it's getting out of hands. There's a lot of fake news, and there's also a lot of like news that maybe a lot of people don't believe because of certain hate. But that's what I'm saying. There's a lot of that filter bubbles right there. And I feel like to completely go with one side, you need to know both the sides. So when you do a Google search, or you need to understand the perspectives of others. Like I have a lot of people that I know who are very polar, where they're like, you know what, this is what I'm going to go through. I'm not going to listen to any other opinions. Like, this is it. Like, this is the holy Bible of my opinions, you know? They're not really open to other opinions. And let me tell you, that doesn't do any good. You don't grow with that. There are some things that I disagree with, but, and I voice it out sometimes. Like, I will say that, you know what, I completely don't agree. You know why? Because I feel like this is better than this, you know? So there is always like both might have a good like a great opinion, but there's always one thing that takes more precedence. Or maybe from your personal opinion, like if I am an immigrant class, and a lot of people now are like, you know, immigrant class are taking away our job, they're taking away this and they're taking away that. But you have to also think that, like, one thing is that immigrant class are ready to work for a lower wage because they find it, you know, they will work twice more harder. So they get their job. They get the job because they're ready to work for, and of course, an employer is going to hire someone who's going to work for less money than hiring one person who's going to ask for a lot of money, you know? So it's not the immigrant class kind of like, you know, but I get it that yes, you should be the priority because you're kind of here, you've lived in America and stuff. But like talking practically, this is better for the employer, you know. Another thing I have a little stronger beliefs on, you know, when they say that equal rights between wages for men and women. Now, there's also this one truth that women do get maternity leaves. Um, I understand that, you know, you can't really work anything with body. I totally get it. All those arguments, physical differences, I totally understand. I totally understand. But the truth is that, yes, we do have the privilege of getting maternity leaves and having leaves too, for different reasons, you know. So yes, like in that sense, yeah, like I don't think, and most of the times it's not a big difference, but yes, I do agree that it always happens, but it's very, very obvious that it happens. So like when people say that, oh, females don't really get a lot of money, like I'm like, I don't see it. Like when you can compare how many leaves you're getting with your male colleague and see how would that work, you know? So you have to like look at both sides before really deciding for yourself like what's going on, you know. I personally, I have a belief that, you know, my dad, he's like, you know, you should do your law career, maybe earn in six figures. You'll probably earn in six figures and stuff. And I'm like, I'm passionate about something, I'm gonna go for it. For me, it's not about the money, it's about how much like passion. It's about traveling the world, experiencing different foods and culture and different things, and like settling down on that, having a nice family, getting married, and you know, having exotic places to like visit and stuff. So that's like my little dream and my little bubble, as I say. But I'm not going to be stressed about like job equality as much, or getting like if this company offers me really good big salary, but the holidays are really less compared to this company, which is not offering me like too big of a salary, but it's good enough that I have savings, I can invest in stocks, and it's good enough amount of money. I might choose the second company because I have a comfort at home and I have more holidays I can spend time with my family. It's not. I feel like these days people are very they're very surrounded by, they're very money minded, and I understand why should they not be. You have to always think about the finances. I get it, but you got to set your, yes, you got to set your bar. Like, you know, I need this much money to have a good living. I need this much money so that my kids can be good for their college fees when they, you know, your college starting plan and things like that. Like, I need this much amount of money. If you're going above that, that's like extra income you can use for your travel plans and things like that. So you need to set a bar for yourself and not be very money greedy, I would say, which is a big question today. Like you have to kind of remind yourself to like get back to the point, be like, what was my plan earlier? Like, where am I now? Kind of give that check every time you kind of are making a tough decision as to like, should I go forward with this job or should I not? Like, you gotta always like watch what's what Pandora's box are you opening, or like what's up with that opportunity, you know? So like, I feel like being satisfied with your career choices, and and kind of like thinking about it as like, it's not, don't add don't add days to your life, add life to your days. So the experiences count, the friends you make count, your family counts. I feel like when I do get married in the future, I would put my family as a priority. Like, I literally like, I tell my dad, you know what, dad, like right now in COVID, you're sitting home and like, you're an engineer, so you're like being on it. But like, when I have my job, I'm gonna have times where like 3 4 days out of a week, I might just open up my office in my house and I'm going to do things from here. And if there is something that needs to be like, I need to meet with my clients, I might just meet at an office or things like that. So it's like I do have family as a priority because I feel like I'm very people person, and like careers come and go, but experiences, how you treated people, they really count. Because guess what? I'm gonna do my job for 20, 30 years. After that, I'm gonna be by myself. So I need people. Like, no one can survive without people and friends. You always need someone. So you gotta know like where it is and not be surrounded by myth and kind of be greedy for opportunities and kind of climbing up the ladder. And it's quite
For
deep.
sure, for sure. Oh yeah, it is very
Thank
deep.
you.
It is very deep. And no, I'm a big, like, I appreciate the fact that like you're sort of bringing these points out and that we can have this conversation, because going back to something that you said about that sense of people not paying attention to the fact that there are multiple sides. That's one of the
Right.
reasons why I started this too, because I feel like a lot of the time it's very easy to sort of build our own bubble and sort of
Yes.
assume our bubble to be the world, but that's not necessarily the case because
Hmm.
everybody approaches things differently. Everybody has different experiences, and they're not going to think the same way that you do.
Yeah.
But sort of trying your best to at least be cognizant of the fact that there are different sort of perspectives at looking at
Hmm.
different things, I think you'll be in a better position than just sort of being in your own bubble,
Hmm.
unaware of what lies out there.
Right.
I get it. Ignorance is bliss is like a cliche statement that people tend to make, and
Yes.
sure, I guess it might work for some facets of life. Excuse me, of life, but in some other places, I think awareness is also key. It
Hmm.
definitely helps. Uh, Speaking of which, like in terms of the arguments of two different sides and things like that, you said that your interest is in international law and sort of
Hmm.
working in Geneva and Switzerland. International law in itself is a rabbit hole in many ways because
Yeah.
of the aspect of geopolitics, or like, the big daddy stance of the US, or the sort of rising economic power of China, or like the sort of,
Yes.
for the lack of a better word, the sort of negative connotation attached to Russia.
Yeah.
So much more. There's a lot going on in terms of like
Yes.
geopolitics and all that sort
Hmm.
of stuff. So why international law of all things?
Yes. Honestly, international law, because yeah, number one, I was very influenced because I feel like I do speak different languages. I know four Indian and three kind of foreign. Like, I speak Latin, German, and French, and of course English. But I don't really count English in that list. Um, but in that sense, I feel like international law, yes, because there is a lot of spectrum in it. Like, and yes, I would love to work in Geneva, but I feel like America is still my priority to stay here. There's a lot of scope in international law. It's also one of those places where you don't necessarily have to be abided by being in an office and just working, because I could work in multiple ways. I could be a lobbyist, work for state, be the tie between state and federal government. I could be the, I don't know the exact position, but like there is those public relations, there's international relations, a lot of lawyers who work with the federal government who always have a tie up with different countries, or like they kind of like they're like the mediators between and advising the important like senators or even the US president. There's a big community of those lawyers who are very much um, experienced in international law and give suggestions that, you know what, this country, they're going through this. I don't think it would be right to invest in oil or approve their plan of making a treaty to do something. So their expertise always kind of helped. And I am a travel geek. I've like my parents are really much like a lot. We're a travel family. We love it. That's one of the reasons why we don't have any pets. I would love to have a dog, but who's gonna take care, right? We're always traveling. It's crazy. So one part of that is like the more you travel the world, the more you get to know different people, the more you understand their feelings, the more you get to know what's really going on. When I was in India, I was in a complete different bubble. Like it was just like this way. This is the only right way. But then you understand there's like so much. This world is big. There's so much to do. And going back to our point, it's like different experiences, different opportunities. Who knows that I could be a professor one day teaching international law with my experiences? Who knows if I could be the mediator between two countries? Who knows, I could be a lobbyist. There's such a big spectrum of jobs you could be in this field, and like it just never ending process, you know. That's what I like about it. It's one of those hidden fields that not a lot of people know about it, but I feel like it's an adventurous thing, and you have to keep learning. I feel like if you're not really like being updated about your career, just like doctors, like when there's Pfizer who came out, and Moderna, all the vaccines that come out, you have to like update yourself. Like how am I gonna like how to go with it. As a doctor, you have to keep learning about new things. It's the same thing for anyone. For engineers, you got to learn about new systems, new updates, SAP, Ariba. There's like so many out there, different softwares that you have to learn about to make your lives easier, to make your companies, lives easier. The same thing with lawyers. You have to keep updating about your cases, what's happening around the world, current events, international events. Do you think your stock market is going to go down because this country's dealing with oil crisis, making that tough decision? So it's a great field to be in, and that's why I'm really interested in it. And who knows, I could travel more. That yeah,
It's
that's
awesome
basically
for
it.
sure, because if you can. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's it. Yeah, no, I was just getting to know your perspective on it.
Gotcha. No, it's definitely because it's like a combination of the things that you like to do versus the things that, and excuse me, not versus, but
Mhm.
and sort of your interests in terms of the
Yeah,
things that you're willing to explore. Because, like you said, there's definitely a lot you get to learn in terms of just traveling and being around different people.
that's
Because
right.
it adds a lot to your perspective and the way that you approach things. Because that person approaches something differently, in that you visualizing that, not visualizing, I guess, but you seeing that opens up your brain to many other possibilities
Mm-hmm.
of looking at something or tackling something. So that's definitely a huge um, asset in terms of being able to sort of look at things from different angles. And I think, like you said, it's something that you'd be developing through travel, or just learning more about the things that you're interested in about your career. So it definitely goes a long way. um, to sort of taper off towards the latter stages of the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
um, and you mentioned something very interesting, which I'll maybe tap on a little towards the
Yeah.
end. But um, what is something that, well, I guess I'll just go into it now. I'm sort of trying to make the mental decision as I'm talking, but you said something really interesting that I really found beautiful, was that
Mm-hmm.
you don't want to add days to your life, you want to add life to your days.
Mm-hmm.
So, from that statement that you just made, what is something that Riddhi Yadav would like to have done in her life, or in any way? Like, what is something that you would like to be looking back upon if you were on your deathbed? It's very deep,
Honestly,
but yeah.
yeah, no, I get it. I get it. To answer your question, I'm a very people pleaser. It kind of sounds
Hmm.
very weird, but I really am. I care about my mother's thoughts. There was a time when when I was in India, even here, I would love it when my mom was told, your daughter sings so well. Even now, it happens actually at the temple when I sing, when I go to different concerts. Usually, the aunties would kind of like approach my mother or my parents, were like, she sings really great. Like, what does she do? Like, where did you get the training? I love it. I love it. And then, when we're sitting in the car, like parents are really proud about it. They were like, you did great, kind of thing. So I have been a little bit of that in the past, and still I'm kind of a little bit. But I feel like when I am one dead, when I'm going to look back, it's like, like, what have I achieved in my life? I think I'm a person who I want to kind of be known, have my own identity that could not be forgotten. And somehow it's like when I'm gonna be, yes, like international law is my passion. So is immigration law. Actually, I kind of hit that a little bit, but I'm going to concentrate on immigration law eventually because I'm very passionate about that too. I feel like there's so much legislative changes that can be done in terms of immigration law. But I want to be known for something that has always been my first love, and it still is, and the only one that I've really had. I'm really passionate about Indian classical music, and it's also a dying culture now. Not a lot of people really go with it. I've had a lot of like my mom's friends and like a lot of the aunties in the Indian community be like, "Why don't you teach? Why don't you teach?" I don't think I'm ready yet to teach because it's like right now I'm kind of focusing on my career. Once I started, I want to do more better in my own field, and I don't think I'm that great yet. Yes, I do have a voice. Yes, I do. I have been singing for long enough, but it's not enough because if I was in India right now, I would have probably been on a graduation level of singing. But sadly, I'm not there yet. I'm probably at the high school level now, in terms of singing. I'm trying to kind of balance it out. But the thing is, I have promised myself, and it's something I'm really going to do when I do get into law school. There is this singer. His name is Mahesh Kare, and he's actually I really admire him because I kind of connect with him a little bit. He doesn't know me yet. I texted him on Instagram and like emailed him about that one day like I really want to like get trained. Like, would you please like to be my teacher? Would you like to be my guru? And I told him about my situation that I've been learning for 16 years. I practice by myself. I Skype my teacher. I learned it, but I would really love it if you could be my teacher. And he said, yeah, of course. Like, let's set up a meeting someday, and we'll discuss more about that. And it was very nice talking to you, kind of. And this guy, he has sung classical songs in movies. He has classes here in America. He is a well known figure. He has sung, he's literally has been a judge for an Indian television show. Like, he is a big hype. Like, he's really good. But I relate to him in the sense that he also came from India. Like, he was in India. He learned at a well known um, Jitendra Abhishek. He kind of like learned singing from him um, with a system where the student has to stay at the guru's place, like the old style teaching that used to happen way, in like thousands or 500 years back, where there was an age where like kids were left by their parents and the teacher's has to like learn Vedas and things like that. The same kind of system he did that. He lived at his teacher's place and he learned singing. He finished it all. When it came to college and masters, he came to U.S. for masters. He lived here. He got married. His wife encouraged him to um, go back to singing because you know she encouraged him to like no continue doing singing, and now he's here. So I relate with him a little bit because like I feel like there's still a part of me that's left in India where I feel like I could like I don't think I can die peacefully without achieving that PhD in singing. Like I want to be like I'm not trying to say that I want to be famous, but I definitely want to be recognized, or I want to like pass on my knowledge and have like I want to eventually teach singing and like pass it on because I come from the Gwalior Gharana of Indian classical music. My teacher, she's about 50 years old. She teaches me, and I keep on doing it. But I feel like I don't want this culture to die. I really don't. I'm a very old soul person. Like I always tell my friends, like guys, I feel like I'm born in the wrong generation. Like I've never like really dated like like I mean yeah, like my parents are also strict, so we're not really my sister and I we're not really allowed to like be in any sort of dating culture. But at the same time, like I never I mean I guess I don't have the time for it, or nor do I, I feel like I should first achieve my goal. And there was really a funny thing. It's like if you're not ready to get married, um, then don't date, because it's like there's many ways to have fun. You could have a hobby to have fun. You could get a job to have fun. You could earn money to have fun and, go take a few drinks or like whatever. Like, you could take a hobby, you could do anything else, but don't use someone's heart to have fun. Don't hurt someone's feelings for that, because being in a relationship, there's a breakup. So I'm a very old school person in that sense, and I feel like there's so much to learn in this world. When I was in India, I used to do Bharatanatyam. I did it for 5 years. I didn't get to the Arangetram stage, but I'm very close to it. I did Bharatanatyam. I did singing. I was nationals in space skating. Not to brag about it, but then I'm just trying to explain my side of where I came from. So I never had like, you know, like not really like a free time, and I never complained about it. Like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, after coming back from school, I had my tuitions, because in India tuitions are very common, and my mom used to go to do her job. So like she would come at 6 p.m. and then 7 p.m. I had to go for my skating class. So my nanny used to be there till like 6, and she would take care of me and my sister, get me from the school bus to my house, and kind of feed us, like give us food and things like that. And I would do my homework by then, had my tuitions right after I come. And then after my tuitions, I would go for my speed skating class that lasted from 7 to 9 p.m. So like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I had that. Tuesday, Thursday, I had singing classes with my teacher. Like this was after school singing classes. Saturday, Sunday, I did painting, and I actually paint too, but not professionally. I just love to paint. I feel like it gives me a sense of peace to kind of have thoughts to myself. So like my days were always busy. I always had something going on, and I never really found the time to, or getting distracted by any kind of emotions. And I feel like something you want to really hide from your parents, you shouldn't really be doing it, because if I do like a person, or if I do fall in love with someone, I don't want to hide him. I want to be proud of him. I want to show him up. I like you because you have something that I don't. I look at you. I respect you. I respect you for what you do. You're different from me. You have something that I don't. I want to learn from you. That should be the mutual understanding between two people. And I feel like love is a whole different topic, where it's like totally different. It's like we're not at that stage yet, because I know right now my focus is to get on into my singing world, kind of be fair to my music industry, and then also become a lawyer, as something so that I can have a basic life going, and then work on my singing. Like the day I become a successful lawyer, I'm going to dedicate my whole life to just getting better at singing. And of course, later on, starting a family, that's a different story. But, there's just so much to learn in this world. There's just so much to do. And I feel like people just need to understand that, you know, that you should use hobbies and different things to have fun. And you don't necessarily need to date to feel like you belong into the society. Now the dating culture has gone so crazy, where like everyone just kind of feels this pretty normal. Like, oh, I have a boyfriend. Oh, I got an engagement ring. There's just so much happening right now. I feel like people should focus on themselves a little bit more, and just open their eyes and see the world, how beautiful it is. You don't need no man to make yourself feel like, oh, okay, I belong to this world. You could always be a different you, you know. Yeah, I know it's a little off topic, but I feel like it's very important to like know, because we're at that age where it's like young adults. And I feel like people get a lot pressurized. I have friends who are like, really, like, I like this guy, but then it's like, I don't know. I was like, why do you need that? Like, what's going on? Like, just focus on yourself. Or if you really like it, then make sure you don't hide it from your parents. And that happens a lot in Indian community, trust me. I have a lot of friends who really feel scared
That's
about it.
totally okay. The fact that you went there is totally
Hmm.
fine. And I
Hmm.
appreciate the fact that you went there because, it's something that we do need to think about in a lot of ways
Yeah.
when we sort of make the choices, be it in our dating lives or anything else. Like if you, even if you sort of have these aspirations, in terms of, well, I mean, it's never always going to go the way you want it to go for sure.
Hmm.
But I think as long as you know what you want and you sort of give it a shot and sort of then see how things work out and sort of mold yourself around that, I think that'll make you a happier person than sitting back and sort of not doing what you wanted
Yeah.
to do because you were afraid of the outcome, and then
Yeah.
later on you're just going to regret doing
Right.
something or not doing something. So I'm glad that you shared all of that.
Mm.
And I'm also hopeful, and I wish that all of your dreams and all of your wishes come true, be it um, through becoming a lawyer initially and then sort of expanding on singing. Because, like you said, just to sort of mention that thought before we go into the word association game, um, classical music is definitely a culture that is diminishing over time.
Mhm.
So it's great to hear that, you're someone that's willing to sort of try and do your part to keep it alive.
Mhm.
So kudos to you for that. And yeah, for sure.
Thank
I
you.
I wish you the best in terms of everything that you choose to do. And thank you so much for sharing everything that you did. I really
Of course.
appreciate it.
Of course. Anytime.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. So we're going to transition into the word association game, which is
Hmm.
called Bish, Bash, Bosh. So
Hmm.
basically, I will give you five different words
Hmm.
that are the same recurring words on every episode, and basically you'd have to respond to each word in either three
Hmm.
words or three different words or phrases. So, for
Okay.
example, if I was to say music, what are the three things that sort of come to your mind?
Okay.
That's sort of how this will go along. If you have any
Hmm.
questions in between, feel free to ask me. Um, but yeah, just three words, three different words, or three different phrases that call out to you. You don't need to necessarily go into the recesses of your mind to find
Yeah.
something. You
Hmm.
can literally just say whatever comes to you first.
Yeah.
So the first word is
Hmm.
differences. What are the things that are calling out to you when I say the word differences?
Differences. I feel like in terms of differences, I would say just me in general. I really think I'm a little different. Meaning I'm really old school, and I don't have a lot of kind of friends who are a little old school. Like I still feel very tied up to the Indian culture so closely that I still call my friends back in India, and I feel like there's a difference. Another thing that comes up like is um, there's a difference between friends and acquaintances. I feel like friends is something like I know that they exist. I talk to them. I never hesitate to reach out to them. Uh, we share our thoughts. They know about me. They have visited my house. My parents know about them. Those kind of things. So they're friends. I could like cry in their arms. I could share my thoughts. It's like, am I doing all right? Like, what's going on? They're friends. Acquaintance is something like I feel like it's Instagram, it's social media. You know those people. You might talk to them once or twice, but there's a difference there because there's one who's a friend who you trust, and they trust you back, and they count on you. So do you. But an acquaintance is someone that you know. You talk to them, but you can't really call them your friends yet because you never know, and you got to be careful in that situations with that. But yeah, that's one thought. Second is me just being old school, and I take pride in it honestly because I feel like there's a lot of things that a lot of complex things that I don't really understand yet. Because as I said, when I elaborated on dating culture in general, um, it's also like the difference here is also that if I don't have time for someone, then I feel like I should, if I want to go that path, I want to make sure that I invest my time in that relationship and not give wrong hopes. I want to make sure that we both have time for each other and be the backbone kind of a thing, you know. So the difference here is trying to understand your priorities right and also make sure that you're not treating someone else unfairly. That's the difference. Third thing is also, I feel like difference. The third thing for differences as a big word. Um, we have known Indian kids or Indian students, Indian people. There's Americans right there. Then there's Indian American. I feel like we're totally in a Venn diagram, we're that gray area right there, who always find it tough and challenging every day to live as an Indian American because it's like your parents, they hold you on Indian standards. They want you to be like a total, or maybe close to like an Indian. And then you have the outside world who, when you assimilate in, they think of you as Indian too. My parents, example, they think I'm too American for them. I love eating out. I love trying new lemonades and new drinks and stuff. Non-alcoholic drinks. I don't drink because it's bad for your voice. Also, I don't drink. Nothing against anyone who loves to drink, but you'll just find me in the corner having a nice lemonade or something. But it's like, you know, as an Indian American, it's like your parents hold you on an Indian standard, and then you have your uh, they think of you as an American, that oh, you're too American for me. And when you go outside in the society, they think you're too Indian for them. So you always are like right there. You have to keep a balance, you know. Like over the years, that's what I've learned. Like you have to keep it like a balance of like, you know, just embracing your culture, but at the same time, you know, you're different. You're certainly like people think you're too Indian or like too American, and then you're right here. You're like, you know, I'm both. Why can't I embrace both? So you kind of turn out to be that hybrid between two, which I feel like it's mostly a blessing. It's not really a curse. It's mostly a blessing. You just have to kind of look at it and be like, okay, what did I gain from it? So yeah, those are three differences: friends versus acquaintances. Then you have Indian American as a bubble versus Indian, and complete different American. And then the third thing is dating culture, giving time and stuff. The differences between what's really true and what is right to do. Hopefully, I answered that right.
Cool, cool. No, you're good. You're good. You're good. The second word is nuances. I appreciate you sort of going into that.
Mhm,
Speaking of which, I think you sort
mhm.
of gave quite a nuanced answer. So
Yeah,
yeah, what are the three things that sort of call out to you when I say the word nuance?
yeah. Um, like what irritates me? Is that what you mean?
No, like
Like,
what are the three things that sort of call out to you when I say the word nuance? Like, for example, if I was to say the word, like I mentioned earlier, like if I was to say
mhm,
music,
mhm,
would it be classical
mhm.
lessons and teaching, something like that? So what would be three things that sort of called out to you when you heard the word nuance? And these could be the
Yeah,
first things that sort of pop out to you.
right. I mean, I would say finding time for family as one. Um, Also keeping the ground between um, Bollywood music, Indian classical, or listening to like hip hop or like different kind of music around. So you're like, what am I? But then I guess why can't you be all? Why can't you embrace all? You know, kind of a thing. And third thing is like travel plans and stuff. Like getting that independence as to like, um, okay, yes, I'm an adult and stuff, but I don't think I have the confidence to kind of go alone and in the woods, and just explore and stargaze and stuff. That's what comes in my mind with the word nuance.
Cool, 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 cool. The third word, excuse me, is learning. What are the
Hmm.
three things that call out to you when I say the word learning?
Okay, learning. Um, of course, Indian classical music comes first. I want to learn that till I die. Like I feel like there's always new things you can learn. Second is learning different, honestly, language like Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, but I would love to one day, like go on with it. Add another feather to my hat, I guess, a golden feather. And then a third one would be travel. Travel, and not just for the sake of looking at beautiful things around or some things, but also traveling can also mean going to a nature trail and connecting with nature in terms of like maybe take a dip in the waterfall, maybe like walk around, go to a farm nearby, talk to different people, their languages, get their experiences, look at their daily lives, like how do they live. But yeah, how is the life outside of being a
Awesome,
city girl, learning how to
awesome,
survive without
right,
electronics?
awesome, awesome. The fourth word is empathy. What are the three things that sort of call out to you when I say the word empathy?
Empathy. Hmm. I'm empathetic to my friends and my cousins because I can't like I they really miss me and we make really good travel plans and stuff. Then it's like we can't like there's so much like one of my friends is about to get engaged and she really wanted me to be with her in India, but then it's like I couldn't be there. I can't be there for their big day because I'm in the middle of something. So it's like I'm empathetic about the situations that kind of come along with it because there's some experiences you're gonna lose them eventually. Empathetic for second thing I would also say is my mother's parents, my grandma, grandpa. Um, I really miss them a lot. Um, I remember when my grandma is like a total like plant lady. She has coffee, apple, like plants and stuff. They're not going to grow to their full size. They're really not. Indian conditions are not great for them. She still plants them, and it's amazing. We connect on that level. My grandma actually wanted to sing, but she had six other siblings after her. She was the oldest, so as an older sibling, she has to always like kind of make sacrifices for that. So she never got to sing. My mother was too academic. She wanted to prove a point that a woman in late 19th century, like in early 2000s, she can't have a normal job and things like that. She never got the time to like sing. Fortunately, I got the opportunity to sing, and I want to take it forward. So I'm empathetic to like people in my family who had to sacrifice a lot to so that I get to sing it. There's no relation between my grandmother's past and like me, yes, but I feel really I feel like it has come down on me. Like my voice kind of expresses that. Like when I sing, I feel like I'm kind of living the dream of something my grandmother and my mom wanted to live. So I'm empathetic about that. Third thing is also like whenever I look at my plants, like I'm a total plant lady. I'm a plant mom. I love helping my dad plant and stuff. So I connect with my dad in that sense. Like no matter what, no matter even we have rough patches and stuff, I always connect with my dad in terms of talking about stocks or talking about plants and taking care of them, those kind of things. So like doing that relaxes me, but I connect with my dad in that sense, and I also connect with. It kind of reminds me back in India how like we had a garden and how when I was a kid, my uncle used to put a hammock and I would like rest over there and I would climb the mango tree, pluck the mango and eat it like on the tree itself. Like not, I was so not ready of coming down until like a whole half afternoon is spent there. Good memories with all that. There's just a lot of memories. Like I'm very empathetic about my times in India and my grandparents and the fact that I get to live the life that they never got to live. So I want to make like the best decisions, give it to my full, and make the fullest out of everything I have. I don't want to miss anything. I'm a very curiosity. Um, I'm a very curious person. I want to do everything.
Beautiful, beautiful. And the last word for this segment is similarities. What are the three things that sort of call out to you when I say the word similarities?
Similarities. I feel like similarities in terms of culture, like it brings joy to my face when I say actually, um, my mom, we when I was in high school in the 11th grade, um, there was my one of my mom's friends. She was her colleague before, and then they have been living here for about 20 years or more now. But my family kind of visited them in Pennsylvania, and it was really great. And I met their two sons, and um, I thought that my mom mentioned that the second son he was born here in America, but then I thought that he was probably born in India, that he speaks fluent Marathi, which is my mother tongue. After I left their house that day, after meeting the family and kind of spending some time, my mom was like, "No, he was born here." I was like, "Well, how does he speak so well? He's born here, he's brought up here. How does he speak so well?" He was like, his mother, they talk Marathi in the house. They have kept the culture alive. Now that was a changing point. I was like, man, like they take so much pride in the culture. Like that was a similarity where I felt like as an Indian American community, like as an Indian American myself, there's so much to take from that person, from the younger son. I was like, I was impressed, honestly. I was like, you know what? One day, like that. Now that's one of those persons where it's like he probably doesn't even know about it, but it was really shocking to me when my mom said he was born here. I was like, how does he keep that language alive? Like Marathi, it's one of like you can lose it. Like I know an Indian family here whose kids came here in their young day, like in their young days in high school and something, but they're in 40s now. They're my parents' age and they lost the language. But like it made me realize that no, there are people who take pride in Indian culture, in Maharashtrian culture, which I am, and I should never shy away from it. At first, I used to. There's another similarity. I've seen a lot of other cultural people. They prefer to speak. Other kids, even now, kids who are Indian of Indian descent, they speak English when they're in public. Even in gatherings, they speak English. I don't shy away from speaking Marathi when I'm with my parents. And to some families, it's really surprising because like we don't shy away from speaking Marathi even in public. At first I used to be, but then I realized like why should I be? Why don't I embrace it? As I matured and as I grew, as I went to high school, I kind of realized I shouldn't kind of I shouldn't be shy about it. So I went for it. That's another similarity. Um, and last thing is friends come to my mind in terms of similarity. We all are trying to get through college. We all are struggling. Not really in all terms, but like we all are trying to like put our base and try to get a new like get a good job, buy a house, buy land, piece of land, maybe a lake house, you know. So we're all right in the same boat, and it's always good to know that there's always someone you can share your feelings with and be like, you know what do you think? Am I doing something wrong? And I feel like we're all having similar situations, but we all have different ways of handling them. But those three are the similarities I think of. Yep.
That's cool. I'm sorry, I had myself muted over there because I was breathing a little or sniffling rather, excuse me. Uh, but no, I appreciate the fact that you sort of dug in deep into this. So thank you so much for sharing everything that you
Yeah,
did and playing along on
absolutely.
this segment of Bish Bash Bosh. We're gonna transition to the last two questions for the
Hmm.
podcast. Oh, that's four, just two. First one being, how do you relate to people? This could be in any context that you see to seem fit.
Yeah, I relate to people in terms of their experiences. I feel like every face has something behind it. Like, one time there was this one friend I used to have, and he was pretty different. Like, he would, like, it was actually in high school, like, he was just perfect. Like, I felt like he was the perfect being. But then later on, I realized, like, how much, like, he struggled through life. Like, he went through depression, he learned his hard ways and stuff. And it just kind of mind boggled me like how can such a perfect face still have a little dark side to him that this happened to him you know um, People change over time and I totally understand it, so I feel like there's always I feel like all our lives are like mirrors. Like, yes, there's a reflection that we have, but there's also the backside of the mirror, which is always dark. And only a true friend, once people trust you, it's like you get to see those leaflets kind of coming apart and you're like, oh, so this person is a little bit different. Like I must like I feel like, I mean, I'm a little like complex person because it's like my life is like an open book. It's literally like I don't shy away, and I don't know why my friends call me quite humorous, but what I'm literally doing is I literally have like a very it's honest. It's an honest opinion. Like one time my friend was like, "Really, why don't you have a pet?" I was like, "Well, I would love to have a fish because," and I was so brutal about it. I was like, because like when I was a kid, my sister kind of copied me because my dad kind of wanted me to feed the fish. So when he was gonna be gone, so like my sister watched me feed it, so she wanted to do similar. So she just emptied the whole kind of like bottle, and then the fish were in coma or they even died. So like I was like, you know what, I'm scarred by that event. I don't want to kill any other pet. But I was like, if I was to get a fish, I told my friends one day, I was like, if I was to get a fish, in case if it passes away, I can just flush it down the toilet, which is pretty brutal. I shouldn't even say it, but it's just those normal kind of like weird things I say. So it's like just complexity, it's very complex. But getting back to the point, it's like feel like experiences with different people are totally different, but at the same time, you always kind of come back together. Like I know one time, like you friends can't be upset with each other for a long time. Like no matter what, you always need each other. Like there's been times when like I have been upset because my friends were like we didn't get the time to hang out, or they've been upset because I didn't have the time to hang out. There's always a mutual understanding as to what's happening in person's life, and they always kind of hang out together with you. So yeah, there's always a scope for betterment in that situation.
Awesome. Awesome. That's awesome. And the last question, which is not really a
Yeah.
question, but more of a request,
Mhm.
is if you could share something positive that keeps you going or something that you'd like for people to take away from this conversation that we had,
Yeah.
feel free to do so. The
Yes,
floor is yours.
for sure. The last thing I would literally say is there's just two thoughts. I know this sounds like a pretty Google quote, but I will say add life to your days, not days to your life. Like literally, my mom has been like, like if you eat a lot of sweets, you're gonna die one day. I was like, Mom, I would die, but like if I do die, I'm gonna die after eating food. Like I love food. I'm gonna eat for them, then I'm gonna die. I'm gonna be happy. You know. She was like, Yeah, I gave birth to you because so that I can see you die. Right. I was like, I'm gonna die after eating food. It's like that drive. So it's like I feel like there's nothing to like you can't be always sad. Like I feel like just give love. Jealousy that has no place. It just kind of I know a lot of people say this, but like honestly, like I have been a people pleaser. I feel like I have much experience in this, like how to get people the right way. But yeah, add life to your days, not days to your life. Um, I have been very hardworking, and I know this sounds like a total dream world. I'm really not trying to brag or anything, but yes, I have worked hard, and I have had a lot of sleepless nights, and I've given my best, and I continue to give my best. So, you know, for me, I have a quote that success is not an option. It's the only option. It's not an option. It is the only option, kind of thing. And like, hard work always pays off. And yeah, just work hard, and success will come behind you. I think it's a quote from like Three Idiots that um, सक्सेस को मत फॉलो करो लाइक अगर तुम अगर तुम हार्ड वर्क करो तो सक्सेस झक मार के पीछे आ जाएगी something along those lines. And I was like, you know what, that is so true, because like just kind of work hard, don't think about promotion or like whatsoever, just kind of enjoy the journey. And I totally agree with it, and that's a suggestion for everyone to
Awesome.
like kind of go with it.
Right, right, right. No, hey, that's a great thought too, and it's a profound thought to sort of close off on, because it's definitely something that we all think about as people in our age, as young adults. So it's definitely something to sort of ponder on, and to sort of realize that put in the work and you'll get what you want, kind of thing. So for sure, that's a profound thought to close on. Thank you so much for sharing everything, Riddhi. I appreciate you taking the time to do this.
Of course.
um and yeah, to everybody who's listening and watching, thank you so much. We'll see you guys next time. Thank you for watching this episode of the podcast featuring Riddhi Yadav. Make sure to mention some things in the comment section below that you found interesting, intriguing, or relatable about this conversation. Make sure to also check the description box below for other sources of information and content that we've talked about today. Make sure to also find the link to the newsletter that I write every week and sign up for it if you haven't already. They'll come in straight to your mailbox every Monday. Other than that, make sure to also like this video, share it around, and subscribe to the channel. I did that a little too early, but make sure to hit the bell icon to never miss another episode. And thank you so much once again for being a part of this conversation and joining in every week. I appreciate you, and I'm grateful for you. So thank you so very much. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and don't forget to keep your mind open to different perspectives, because you never know, random relatability might just be around the corner.